Look, I need you watching our backs. You're a better shot than I am.
Huh, really?
No?
Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Gears of War 4 Insane Difficulty video walkthrough. This is Act 3, Chapter 2. It is Night Terrors, and we are moving around now, getting a full emphasis of the atmosphere in the game. It utilises the torch quite a lot every so often, and we're being introduced to some new enemies. When we hit this door coming up, you're going to see the juvies, which, if you played Gears of War 3, you'll recognise a pretty similar enemy type, because it's the same as those lambent human zombie things that were in that game, only they're a little bit more deceptive in this. Instead of just being kind of drones that charge you and don't do anything too interesting except for their aggression, these can dodge and they're incredibly agile. And they're a mixture of the wretch and those zombie creatures. And the best way to kill them, in my opinion, is if you have a unique weapon that can melee. For instance, the torque bow will kill them in one melee. The retro lancer will kill them in one melee. Of course, you can chainsaw them. That is effective too. But for a lot of the weapons, for instance, like the snub that I'm using now, if you put 1 to 2 bullets into them and then punch, it will do that, what you just saw. Bearing in mind, though, there is some interesting moments, like, did you realise before I got the hit that killed him, I missed him when I was right there? Gears has always had weird hitboxes, with weird moments of weird detection coming together, so these particular creatures, not only can you do the unique kick on them, sometimes like context sensitively, but they can also dodge you really cheekily and have some weird moments like just then. The rule of thumb with these creatures on Insane is they kill you in 2 hits. You cannot take 2 sustained hits unless you heal. The first hit puts you to, you need to really start paying attention, and then anything after that and you're done. It's that simple. The shotgun is great against them, obviously, it's a really good weapon, but once again, the spread on it from the hip fire is a little random, so you can't always guarantee you're going to get the shot that you feel like you should get. The best strategy always, in my opinion, is to get some space and then shoot them as they're running towards you, because then you can use the Lancer. It's the workhorse of this game, and it can put them down without worrying too much about ammunition, because you are always going to get more of it. You can grenade tag them if you want to, but I don't know why you would. You'll notice the AI has this penchant for grenade tagging the juvies. I don't know why they do it. It doesn't hurt you, thankfully, but from this point onwards, you're going to fight a lot of these creatures, guys, so you need to be comfortable with this enemy type. Couple of things to think of. When you see them go behind a piece of cover, they will jump over it in a very specific way, oftentimes jumping off the wall and landing in a specific space. But they recover faster than you would think, so they will never be there long, but you can preemptively aim and hit them as they land and get some cheap shots on them. If they hit you, and you go to hit them, they will do a backwards dodge, which will almost always dodge what you try to do, and can set you up for their swipe attack, because they do a jumping, leaping swipe that covers about 1 meter and 1.5 meters. The amount of times I've tried to run away from a situation where I've took a hit from a juvie and I've got trapped, and I've tried to get away from them, and they've just jumped forward and given me a vicious hook, is too damn high, so you need to be aware that there are moments where you need to get lucky to get away from them up close, but there are also times where they can hit you at some ridiculous ranges, so it's an enemy that I do think is, it's designed to push you out of cover, it's designed to be a nuisance, it's designed to replace the wretches, but the wretches were always fair, I felt. These things are not. Like, don't get me wrong, there's moments in Gears 1 that stand out to me where the wretches were a nightmare. Do you remember that bit when you went underground on Act 3 and you walked forward in that mining area and it does that zoom in to the screaming wretch and then boom, they start coming, and because of course the lambent wretches, when you kill them they're still dangerous. That bit could be a nightmare on Insane, and I remember it being very tricky. The wretches could be bad, but these things are something else. They're really fast, they dodge a lot of the stuff that you've got, and there are times when they take more bullets than they took before. You know, it's definitely an interesting creature, and it does keep you on your toes. And when it's just them on their own, like these moments, I don't think they're too bad. I think they're challenging in the right way. It's when they put these enemies with other enemy types. And I tweeted about this because Gears of War has always had a very disciplined hand. And you can make your game really difficult by just not showing discipline in how you implement enemies. It's easy to make a game unfair. It's easy to make a game challenging for poor reasons. You know, designers do this all the time. It's just like when you look at fighting game AI, they just make them perfect and they react faster than any human can, so they punish things that you can't feasibly punish, and it just feels like they're cheating. So you never really take it seriously because it's essentially bullshit, and any serious fighting game player doesn't play against the AI because they know they let you win, because if they don't, what can you do? Like right now, real hairy moment there. But be comfortable in your movement. Always try and put a piece of geometry between you and the enemy. And if you've got a shotgun here, you'd be laughing. But I'm still in the novelty of carrying 2 lancers. Because if you didn't notice, I have 2 lancers on my back. This is profound, guys. I don't think I've ever done this. Or if I have done it, I've forgotten. But that's crazy to me. There's a trap coming up here. If you've got a shotgun, you can shoot both of them in like one spread here. And it does a really good job. But be very careful. Because if you don't explode the pod behind you, you can get stuck and trapped. It happened to me on my first run. Couple of things to note about the double lancer setup. When you pick up an ammo box, it will only fill one of the lancers, so one lancer will gradually degrade. It's kind of weird. Like, you've got feasibly 1,000 lancer shots when you begin, but what you need to do is you need to use the lancer that the ammo replenishes on. So it's whichever lancer you had first seems to be the one that keeps the ammo state. And save the other 500 shots as kind of a backup. If you were ever to do this. And I do think having 2 lancers is a pretty good idea. Just because the lancer's so good in this game. In Gears, the lancer is always good because it's got a big clip, it fires quickly, it accumulates good damage thanks to its active reloads, and it has the chainsaw, which used to be a great defense against anything in your face. This game not so much, of course, but if you're really good at tapping, maybe you can survive. And I hope you're good at tapping, because we're coming up against an enemy soon, where unless you preemptively tap before it comes on the screen to prompt it, you cannot get out of its grab. And I know, because I did not think you could escape its grab on Insane. I got really pissed off at this fucking enemy, but we'll talk about him when he turns up. So, right now the difficulty's still pretty minimal, sorry. You're not going to have too many struggles here. But trust me when I say winter is coming, and it's got a really frosty tooth. And there are some fights that I don't know how I can prepare you for them, other than to say I hope you like random bullshit. Like, what can I say? And it frustrates me as a guide maker because there is no 100% strategy to get through a lot of these areas. You know, it does rely on your ability to assess a situation and assess threats and come out on top. And I do think that's a skill, and I think it's something you should be proud of if you've got it, which you undoubtedly do if you're tackling Insane on your own. That checkpoint here is going to trigger a bunch of juvies now that are going to rush you, and this is when you're going to get to really see what they do with the movement. So in my opinion, being close to cover when the juvies turn up is a bad idea because they can parkour over it in interesting ways, and they have more than one way to traverse cover, so they're not always going to do the same thing. And you need to be aware of this, because the amount of times where I've thought they were going to jump over a box and they jumped off the wall instead is a little disheartening, and it can get you caught. Because it doesn't take much for this enemy to kill you. Trust me on that, guys. Trust me. And you see that? This thing's taking a beating, which is why I recommend put a little damage on it, 1 to 2 shots, and then punch it. It's always going to kill them. It just seems to be really, really effective. But if you've got a Retro Lancer here, just wait for him to come to you and hit them. The Retro Lancer is a one-hit, it's wonderful. The Hammer Burst is not, so you need to do the hits into Hammer Burst melee. Same with the Snub is not. I didn't try the Markser. The shotgun is really good, but it doesn't one-hit kill it with the melee, you have to shoot it. And of course, at that range, the Gnasher really does work. But just be tentative moving forward, because there's a couple of creative spawns here, where they come through doors and things, and they drop off like pieces of geometry. So, there's a few more of them. Wow, did you see that? He just got completely jibbed. Why? She hit him with a sniper rifle, and the sniper rifle's not a one-hit kill against the juvies. Interesting to see. Maybe he hit it with a Markser or something. Or the gun that I'm not very good at pronouncing. So, this is me swapping out Lancers, and really enjoying the fact I'm carrying 2 Lancers. And then here is this guy. So the hip fire on the Lancer is good. It's always been good. But I would still not recommend that you waste too much ammo when you can aim at the juvies at a distance and put them down that way. I really miss the original muzzle flare of the Lancer. Does anybody remember it? The original muzzle flare seemed to be super random, and it looked so sharp and spiky, and I really liked it. It didn't really look like a muzzle flare, it just kind of looked like just random collection of different flames, and I really enjoyed the way that the Lancer looked in the first game. When it came to firing, it gave you the impression that it was firing incredibly fast. And then in Gears 2, of course, they slowed it down a little bit. But I think they made it perhaps do more damage, or they made it a bit more impactful. Of course, they added a lot of those features, didn't they, where when you shot things, it added stopping power now, which a lot of Gears 1 vets didn't like, because you couldn't charge people with a Gnasher anymore. And that was always fun. But then again, you couldn't shotgun cancel out of the roadie run. You couldn't do a lot of the great techniques that the first game, you know, pissed off so many new players with. But pushing into this chapel, I say chapel, it's just a courtyard, isn't it, with a fancy statue. I don't think there's a fight in here. I think this is a calm before the storm, because we're going to have the epiphany of the game coming up. It's the part that you were expecting, and it's the part that you knew that was going to be here, but it appears in a way that you perhaps weren't quite aware of. It also affords one of my favourite storytelling devices in this game, which is its use of dramatic irony, because we're about to face the Locust, and the people we're playing as, they weren't born into a world where the Locust were a threat. They were born into a world where the Locust had been defeated, so they only know stories and have heard horror stories. They've never seen what it was like, so we have a very unique position of knowing exactly what's going on, while our characters don't. So they don't know what's going on right now, and we're being rushed by drones that are using hammerbursts and lancers and gnashers, and they look a bit like locusts, but they kinda don't. And you'll notice immediately, see the red ring? You die real fast against this kind of damage. See that? Straight to instant death. But notice, you are not vulnerable when you blind fire, because it's Gears of War, and that's not a mechanic. That right there? Wow. That was something. So that happened quite fast, and you might not have noticed what just happened. The Locust rushed me, and I backed up off the wall. If I hadn't done that, I was dead, because when he mantles over, he puts you into a stun that you cannot escape, and they will always kill you afterwards. So if you ever see a Locust go on the same piece of cover as you, and they're in line with you, you have to move or get off it, or grab them. There's the 3 rules, and it happens really quick, so you need to be aware. Like, a lot of people have been saying the AI doesn't seem very different. I can guarantee you it is, guys, on Insane. The Locust will rush you a lot. And when they rush you, it means something, because they're incredibly dangerous. But at the beginning here, they do come out of a pseudo emergence hole. And you can seal the emergence holes. So my favourite mechanic from Gears of War 1, of knowing where those holes are and putting grenades in them, is something I'm able to do in this game, which I found to be really fun, because that's my favourite part of Gears. Preemptively avoiding combat. And I know that sounds weird. Oh, look at him rushing, you see him? Look, here he fucking comes. Look at that, that is terrifying, and you don't know how scary that is until they one-shot you, and you have to do the full fight again. Like, the Locusts really, really rush in this game a lot more intimidatingly than they used to. And as you push up now, there's going to be a spawn of 2 Locusts coming through this door, so you want to... I put a grenade there, and I'm not too sure if it kills them. I hope it does, but I'm going to lance what's left. And I don't know why I'm calling them Locusts, because technically they're Swarm, but they're Locust, you know? They are fucking Locust, and he is down, so we're gonna go up to him and hit him with something. I tried to do a snub execution here, but apparently the snub execution is the punch him in the face one, and I never liked this. That's for showboating in multiplayer. I don't think it's the coolest animation. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, wouldn't that be like smacking rock? Because the Locusts are really... Like, if you think about it, have you ever touched a crocodile's skin? They're armoured, dude. You wouldn't just start laying into it and having a fun time, so it always seemed a bit weird to me, that animation. But there's more of the Swarm now. I've picked up the Hammerburst. It's a super cool gun. It's gone through some interesting iterations in the series, and at the moment, it's triple fire. You cannot go into the ADS in this game. I couldn't figure it out. If it exists, that's awesome, but I pressed the analogs and shit and I didn't get anything. The good thing about this gun is it packs a punch. It's a little bit faster, a little bit slower, sorry, than the Lancer, but it hits harder because, of course, the Lancer has to accumulate more damage, even though it fires faster. So it's a choice over slower speed but probably gradual greater damage over faster speed and slightly lesser damage. This is the utility of the assault rifles in Gears, and I've always had a nice balance between the two. I will always prefer the Lancer, but that's just because of Gears 1. But you'll also notice that there are these kind of like elasticated testicles hanging from the ceiling, these pustule pods. I don't believe that they drop enemies, but they also drop cover, so it's an interesting way of having slightly more dynamic cover. Personally, I don't use it, because at this range, we actually have the advantage. The enemy has to rush us if they want to, and they're not that damaging when it comes to being at long range, so you can get away with doing things you can't do up close. And this has been a core tenet of how you play Gears on Insane since the beginning. So, if you've played any of the other ones, you are well tailored in your understanding that distance is strength in Gears of War. But there's another couple more of the standard drones now. You'll notice when they stand in cover, you can get plenty of hits on their shoulder and on the side profile. It's one of those things that is always been in the series, so you want to capitalise on it as best as you can. And all I recommend here is keeping your head on a swivel, so when they start to rush like this, they don't catch you by surprise. Because let me tell you, the Locust, when they start rushing, it's just one of those really scary moments, just because of the game is unfair in its balance towards Locust and you in that range. One thing I would have changed if I had a choice in all the Gears would be the shotgun for the campaign. And I wouldn't make it feel different or really act different. I would just make it so that if a Locust is as close as my team is now, if I hit it with a shotgun, it jibs. That's the point of the shotgun, that's why we use them. They should be deadly up close, just like they are when the Locust hit us. However, it doesn't work that way, and I appreciate the monsters, I appreciate the hardest difficulty, but the shotgun should work. And you can get those moments where you spray the enemies, but it seems to be random, and I don't like that. I want it so that if you come within 3 yards of me, when I have my Nasher on, I win. Or you win if you have a Nasher because you're faster than me, but for the most, you know, I always respected in Gears that each weapon had a range that you used it in. By the way, these are all pre-grenades for the emergence holes. There's 3 in this zone, and if you're quick and aggressive enough, you can seal most of them without having to fight anything, which is beautiful design in my opinion. Really, really fun stuff. I love it. I love the idea of here is a potentially 15-minute skirmish against a ton of dudes, but you can do it in 5 minutes if you know how to stop them from being able to get any kind of momentum. To me, that's perfect design. And, you know, I love it. I really do. It reminds me how much I think Gears of... Wow, you see that? That was dangerous. They're really good with grenades in this game, but they don't throw them that often, so they do surprise you. I've got a wonderful fail on my video where Locust somehow manages to land one on top of me, and I had no idea who threw it. But keep on clearing them. This is another one of those like quintessential Gears moments for me. It's an open courtyard, there's lots of points of egress, there's a power point, there's you know, pushing forward, there's the emergence holes. It's just vintage Gears for me. Everything that they did well is represented here. And now we can see the fantastic upgrade in visuals, because if you didn't notice then, if you looked at JD's face, you can see the beading of the water from the rain. You can see it on his armor, you can see it on his gun, and you can see it moving dynamically as the texture and the bitmap or whatever the hell they've got there that's manipulating the physics. I say physics, the visuals, sorry. Just making it look amazing, and I don't know how they do that, but I'm so glad they do, because it looks great. But now that that's over with, you want to go back through the battlefield, pick up everything that you can, go into the emergence holes every time, because they generally leave something special behind. It's sometimes grenades, it's sometimes a special weapon. They're always worthwhile checking out. And then up here is a long shot, which I really should give to my team, but I get the feeling my team's going to be fucking off like they always do, which is kind of frustrating. It all depends on how many bullets are in the one shot as well. I like the one shot, but I'm so conscious of Act 3 because of the Chapter 3 that's coming up, and I think it's Chapter 3 where I definitely felt this game kick me when I was down. Because I mentioned earlier, guys, I recorded this entire walkthrough while I was ill, and the game had nothing to do with my state, guys. I just got poisoned by something. There was something in my system trying to assassinate me, and I was having a really miserable time. But in the grand scheme of the world, you know, I wasn't I was like first world, top tier, you know, life problems. It was a dicky tummy, potentially food poisoning, and I've never had it before, so it kicked me. You know, either that or my ass was trying to have an affair with the toilet and didn't tell me, or had a very interesting way of showing it. So it wasn't a big deal in the grand scheme of the world, but to my universe, it kind of was, because is there anything worse than when you're ill? It feels like it's the end of the world, and it's just one of those crappy things, because you can't ignore it a lot of the times. And Act 3 was really, really brutal. And this is a very tough fight coming up as well. We're being introduced to one of the new enemies. It's called a pouncer. And this enemy, very simple. It's simple, but it's so counter-grain of gears, it can really put you in an interesting spot. So this creature has these barbs that it fires at you. It fires quills, I think they call them. And it's incredibly accurate. Two sprays of that from about this distance will kill me. If I'm closer, it can kill me in one. And what this creature does is it jumps from cover to cover, and if you're on the piece of cover that it jumps on, it knocks you off and it puts you in a stun, and then it jumps on you and puts you into a grab animation where you have to tap B. If you do not start tapping B before it's on you, you're going to die every time. It's just how this enemy creature works. And when you have a good pattern where it's focusing on your buddies and you can do some good damage to it, this is me trying to chainsaw it prematurely, it doesn't work. You have to wait for it to glow. Use a shotgun, grenade tag it, whatever you want to do. But I just decided to see if I could chainsaw it prematurely. It didn't work. Anyhow, if you get a good pattern against these creatures, they're really not so bad because they're not looking at you. You can hit their weak spots. Look at the damage, by the way. Insane damage. You need to be very careful. And they just seem like an enemy that has a lot of life and is just annoying. But then when you fight two of them, you realise just how dangerous they can be. And there's no checkpoint here, guys, so you have to fight 3 of these in a row. And I don't mind so much the fact there's no checkpoint, it's just this fight can go bad quick. Really quick. Like, if you get pinned down by one of them and the other one moves into a position where it can hit you in cover, there's not a lot you can do, because as you move out of cover, they will both hit you at the same time and it's an instant kill. So I took a liking to this green truck when I was doing this, because I noticed when he jumps onto the truck, he can't get to me because he jumps onto the back part, he jumps onto the bed, he doesn't jump on the bonnet. He might be able to, and I say he not knowing the gender, but I never saw him do it in this particular run, so I managed to stay here for a lot of this fight with almost complete immunity because nobody challenged it. And whenever they get close, I put the shotgun on because the shotgun does massive damage even though it doesn't seem like it does, and especially when you're point blank. If you want to see the kind of damage that the Nasher can do, try blind firing against Ram when he's close. You can kill Ram in about 10 seconds if you do it that way. It's incredibly powerful. But for whatever reason, this truck seemed to be working really well, so I just kind of stayed here. But my best advice to you guys is get away from your team. Get your team to scapegoat for you so that you can do big damage while your team keeps them busy. And whenever they jump on your team, you have to save them, because if you don't, they'll rip their head off and you'll fail. So you want to put some punishment on them. And a good thing about them on your team is that they're not attacking you, so you can then go there and do things you normally can't do against this enemy, a la grenade tag, shotgun, whatever you've got. And if you bring any kind of powerful weapon like a long shot or a boom shot, if you might have got so lucky, then this can be a little quicker. But be under no illusion, guys, I've shot I think 2 to 3 boom shots at these creatures and it didn't kill them. I've shot them plenty of times with actives from the long shot and it didn't kill them. They just have an astronomical amount of life, and it is one of the most frustrating aspects of this entire campaign as it comes down on the floor and starts trying to chase me. I love this moment. I play the old ring around the roses with the car, and then it jumps on the car and then it starts trying to quill me. And that was one of my buddies throwing a grenade, which is nice. Here's me using the shotgun from a range that it's not best, but it's still useful. You want to be closer, ideally. I think I was doing that mainly to get actives for the next time it comes close, and as soon as you see it start going Sunset Overdrive, it means you've won. And it didn't look too bad, did it? It looked kind of standard. I was shooting it, I was in cover, nothing too crazy. That fight can be tough, guys, be under no illusion. They can kill you in seconds. It happens so fast, and it really is the moral of this entire walkthrough. It doesn't look like it's difficult, but it can be, and you're going to suffer in some parts of this because it's just natural, it's just the way the game works. And if I can be there to help pick you up and help motivate you, then that means these videos are doing their job. And there were moments when I needed motivating, definitely, but I don't think this is the hardest campaign, I really don't. I think it's tricky, and I think there are parts that are a nightmare. I think this campaign will really shine on difficulty when you play it co-op, because co-op scales the difficulty, and that's where things get really broken. Because if you ever took on Queen Mira on co-op on Insane, I have never seen anything as broken as that fight. And it's just, like, I don't know if we ever did it, me and my friends, because it's that broken. You've never seen so many enemies, you've never seen so much damage, you've never seen so many people shooting the same thing and it not dying. Like, I don't think I've ever played a game that felt that broken. It felt like taking on, you know, the super bosses from Borderlands, when you don't have the levels or the weapons to do it. It just felt like, what the fuck are you doing? Really, really strange. But thank you for watching, and you take care now.